Hey, I'm Hunter,
And I'm Taylor.
and we're here today to make a video and kind of update people on where we're at with our infertility journey. If you've never met us before, this is going to be, a little look into our life and tell about our journey of where we've been, where we're going, and kind of where we're at right now. So a little bit about us. We met. We were in high school. We're high school sweethearts. We got married in 2015. Taylor was a nanny at the time. I'm a firefighter. I've been a firefighter pretty much since I was 15 years old, and I knew that was what I wanted to do. And so then after we got married in 2015, we pretty much knew, that we wanted to have kids. Taylor kept kids all the time. There was always kids over at our house, in and out. And she grew up in a big family, and I've always liked kids, so I was completely on board. So in 2016, we started trying, and we pretty much spent the whole year 2016 trying. And we knew, kind of going into it that there might be some issues, but we wanted to try, and so we spent a year doing that. And then, we realized that we're probably going to have to reach out and find some help.
I went to my regular OB doctor, and she told me that she wanted to try a few things before I actually went to a fertility clinic. So we did those with no success. And about 6 months later, she said, you've been trying for a year and a half pretty much, and I feel like you probably should go to a fertility clinic. So of course we knew that was going to be expensive, but we knew that was probably going to be our only option of becoming parents. So in April 2017, we went to Reach and met with the doctor, and they said that they wanted to run some tests and try to get some answers and figure out exactly what was going on in my body. And they did that, and they really never were able to give us an exact answer of what was going on. But they told us that they would like us to do IUI. And our insurance actually covered for us to do a couple rounds of that. So, of course, we immediately agreed to do it. And in October of 2017, we did one round of IUI, and it was unsuccessful. So they immediately the next month did another one, and it was unsuccessful. And really at that point, we weren't really quite in the journey yet. And so, yes, we were upset that it didn't work, but we didn't really know what to think and what was going on. And then the doctor set us down and told me that our only option, most likely to become pregnant, was going to be able to do in vitro. And then that opens up a whole new world to meds and lots of ultrasounds and blood work and very expensive journey. And so we started praying about that and seeing that that was supposed to be the route we were supposed to go.
We met with the financial advisor, and because that was going to be, the main thing that was going to hold us up was how much it cost. And so we met with her, and I knew it was going to be expensive because the doctor, she didn't really talk numbers because I guess they can't, but she, we knew just from our own research. And so I walked in there and I told the financial advisor, I was like, all right, shoot me straight. I want straightforward. How much is it going to be? And when she told us, I was like, whew. I wish I would not have said that. I almost fell out of the chair, and she was like, yep. And the way people pay for this is they get credit cards, home equity line of credits, personal loans, and you have to have all the money up front before you receive any treatment. All right, do you have any questions? And I was like, yep, you just shot me straight like I asked you to do. But man, that was tough. And so, but she did tell us about a program that couples could apply for through Reach. And so we applied for that, and it was the Bundle of Joy. Kyle and Samantha Bush, they had to go through Reach to have their child, and so they like to use support and help couples, and that's what the Bundle of Joy is for. And so we looked into it. We're like, this is something we should try to apply for, and we don't know how else we're going to pay for the in vitro, so in the meantime we'll apply for this and kind of figure out what we're going to do. So we filled out the application, and it was a pretty lengthy process. We both had to write a personal story or statement on why we deserved it, and just kind of about our short infertility story at that time. And so we applied and sent in the application, and just in the meantime we just waited and prayed. We didn't really know what the next step was going to be, if we were going to be able to get the scholarship from the Bundle of Joy, or how we were going to be able to do this all. And so one day, Taylor got a phone call and they wanted us to come in to Reach and review our application. Well, like I said, I'm a fireman, so there's certain days I work at the fire department, and she was like, well, that's one day, Hunter's working. They're like, well, we really need both of y'all there. So I found somebody to work for me, and we went in for the meeting. And so we went in there and we sat in the lobby, waited, and they brought us into this conference room. As soon as we walked in, Samantha Bush was standing there. At that moment, we knew, wow, she's...
We had watched the videos.
Yeah, we'd watched the videos, so we knew more than likely, like, we were going to get, something, and we probably were going to receive the Bundle of Joy. And never did I think that they would have given us as much as they did. They gave us $20,000, which covered our in vitro. And so we're like, this is what we've been praying for. I mean, these are prayers answered. And so we want to thank Kyle and Samantha and the Bundle of Joy for sure for helping us out, because we'd have never been able to do it the first time.
With the money that Kyle and Samantha Bush gave us, after we met with the financial advisor and the doctor, they advised us that the best option for us would be to get what's called the Attain program. And basically it gave us 2 cycles of in vitro. And that way, if our first egg retrieval didn't work, we would have a chance to do a second egg retrieval and hopefully end up with some embryos out of one of those retrievals. And so we went with that. That way we would have 2 rounds. And we immediately started our first round and started the meds and started the cycle and had no clue what we were getting ourselves into. Ultrasounds and blood work is every other day pretty much during those 2 weeks before the egg retrieval, and it's a little bit crazy, but on June 21st was our first egg retrieval. And basically it's a surgery, and they put me under to do the egg retrieval, and then once it's done, they come out and tell us how many eggs they were able to retrieve. They were able to retrieve 9 eggs, and they told us that they would be calling us the next day and let us know how many fertilized. And the embryologist called us and they told us that we had a few embryos growing, and that they would give us another call in a couple of days and let us know how many we ended up with. And so we ended up with 1 embryo that they were able to freeze and save to do a transfer at a later date, because my body just wasn't quite ready for a transfer yet. And so we spent a couple months working on my body and getting it completely ready, meds after meds and injections after injections, and getting my body ready for that transfer. So in September, we did the transfer. After we got the call that the embryo transfer did not work, the nurse told me that the doctor said that she would like me to go ahead and start another round pretty quickly, since my body was already working and doing what they needed it to do. And on November 15th, we had our second egg retrieval, and before we left, they told us that we had 8 eggs, and they told us that they would call us the next day and let us know how many had fertilized. And so they called us and let us know that we had 5 eggs that had fertilized and they were growing embryos, and that the plan was to do a fresh transfer, which is 5 to 7 days after the retrieval. So they told us, we got it scheduled, they told us what time to be there and everything, and she did tell me that the embryologist would give me a call that morning just to make sure that nothing had happened. And so our alarms had just went off, and we were laying there in bed and getting ready to get up and get ready to go, and we were so excited. The embryologist called and said, your embryos have stopped growing. And I immediately just thought, well, do y'all keep watching them for a couple days? And so I asked them, and they said, no, unfortunately, as soon as they stop growing, they're no longer good embryos, and we have to discard them. And I remember looking over at Hunter and just thinking, like, this was our last chance. There's nothing else that we're gonna get to do. We're not gonna get to do this process again. And this was our last chance, and now we have nothing.
And that morning, I mean, I know I was laying there, she was on the phone, and I was listening, and it was, I mean, you could just see, the emotion coming over her, and just, it was the worst phone call. I mean, there's no other way around it. It was the worst phone call you could ever watch your wife take, and then we just laid in bed and just cried, and there's nothing I could say or nothing I could do. for her, and it was literally like getting a phone call saying that you just lost a child. I mean, and just all of our, I guess, hopes and dreams at that point were all in on that. And we were planning on going to this appointment and doing a transfer again, and so we didn't even get the opportunity to have a transfer that time. So it wasn't like the first time where they at least put it in, and then we found out she wasn't pregnant. We didn't even get that chance, and so it was really tough, and it was really hard to go through that and to watch Taylor go through that. It was tough.
And at that point, we had no clue where to go from there. We knew that we obviously had to meet with the doctor, and so we scheduled an appointment to meet with the doctor. And Hunter was actually supposed to come with me, and he got a fire and couldn't come. So I was there by myself, and the doctor said our team of doctors and our embryologists have reviewed y'all's cases, and your egg quality is just not good, and that's why the embryos are not growing. And I remember just sitting there, knowing that I was the problem, and knowing that there was really nothing else that they were going to be able to do. However, she did tell me that we could do the option of egg donor, but she told me the price on that, and I knew that wasn't going to go over well with Hunter, or that we were even going to be able to do it. And I basically felt defeated, and I basically didn't know what our next step was going to be. And I knew that I don't always long to carry a child, and I knew that if I was going to be able to do that there would obviously have to be a miracle, or we would have to find an egg donor.
We didn't know. We were just kind of lost at this point on where to go next. We didn't know which route we were going to choose.
A very close friend of mine reached out to me and said that she wanted to meet me for lunch and that she had something she wanted to talk about. So we went to Chick-fil-A, and she sat me down and she said, "Taylor, you're going to think I'm crazy, but God has laid this on my heart, and God has told me to give you my eggs and be your egg donor if you want me to." And of course, I immediately said yes, and didn't even think about what Hunter would think of it, but I immediately said yes. And she was like, "Well, you obviously have to talk to Hunter." And I said, "Well, have you talked to your husband?" And she said, "Yes, he's on board. I would have never come to you and told you this." But I looked down at her little boy, and all I could do was cry, because I was thinking she wanted to give me that same opportunity that she had to be a mom. And I told her right then and there, I said, "I'll never be able to repay you if you do something like this." And she said, "I'm not doing it for that reason. God has told me to do this, and I'm doing this for you, Taylor, if you want it." And so I told her, of course, we discussed that I would talk to Hunter and call him and see what he said. But I told her, we left there, and I told her that this is what I wanted, and this is what I've been praying for. And God had finally given me that.
And so when Taylor called me and told me, I was immediately, kind of caught off guard. She just told me she was going to eat Chick-fil-A with a friend. I didn't know she was going to call and tell me all that, which she didn't know they were going to tell her that either. But it was literally like we were at a fork in the road, and we didn't know where to go. Do we do egg donor, or do we try to explore other options on what we were going to do to try to have a child? We really didn't know what to do. We've been praying about it. And then one day at Chick-fil-A over lunch, God answered our prayers, and he came to us, and we were literally praying, "Lord, we want to have a baby. Show us where we need to go, how we need to do this, and what our options would be." And he did. He came and he showed us. And so that's kind of where we're at now, and we're gonna have a baby using an egg donor.
Once Jennifer came to me and told me that she wanted to be my egg donor, and me and Hunter had obviously both agreed on it and knew that this was the answer to our prayer. We knew that there was going to be a long process to get this going and to get this started, and so we were still in a waiting period, and we knew that we had to get my body right still to be able to carry a baby.
So Taylor started going to acupuncture. One of the guys I work with at the fire station, his wife told her about it, said that she'd been a lot. We did some research on it, and she started going, and it really started helping. It really helped her body, and it was like she said, it was preparing her to possibly, to carry a baby. And so while she was going to that, the acupuncturist there told her about another place in Charlotte Carolina Fertility Institute, that we should go and talk to them. And we'd already been discussing, about, do we want to go back to Reach, and should we explore other options? So we wanted to go there and just see, one, for pricing, because we didn't know how much this was going to cost. And so we went and met with the doctor there and kind of got a second opinion. And of course, he wanted to do a lot of research and testing on his own, and I completely agree. And we appreciated that, to him to take that time to look into it. So we looked over all of our stuff from Reach. We had it sent over. He ran a lot of tests on Taylor. He actually called and consulted with doctors somewhere overseas in France, and he did a lot of stuff just to try to help figure it out. And he ended up, coming back and telling us, that it's just kind of an unknown on why Taylor couldn't get pregnant. And he was completely on board with us doing the egg donor, and so that just to us was another sign that, he could have said, "Oh no, I don't think y'all need to do this," and just that was another thing that led us into, this is the right thing to do. The doctors are on board, I'm on board, Jennifer's husband's on board, Taylor's on board, Jennifer's on board, and everything's just going in the right direction and where we need to be.
In order to do this process with the egg donor, we obviously have to go through some legal paperwork and a couple of counsel sessions to make sure that we're all on the same page and that this is the right decision for us to start a family. And so we have completed all that and got the check off, and now we're about to start the process. And basically the process is they will retrieve the eggs from Jennifer's body, and then they will make the embryos, and then they will transfer the embryo into my body.
So that's our story. I know there's a lot of stuff that we wrote it all down, and we tried to cut it and just give you, the main nuts and bolts of it, I guess would be the best way to say it. But the best thing we can tell anybody that's going through this is it's going to be tough. And we've had, our moments and our issues, emotionally, it's a roller coaster. It's up and down. And I cannot sit here and say it is not hard. It's one of the hardest things, if not the hardest thing I've ever had to go through. And the hardest, somebody asks me what's the hardest part of this, and it's not so much me as what it was watching Taylor go through what she had to go through. Because I knew that she was longing to be a mom. And I guess the best way to describe it is, being a firefighter, being a fireman, our job is to fix people's problems. And so with my wife, there was a problem and there was nothing that I could do to fix it. And it crushed me seeing her go through that. We both wanted it so bad, but she wanted it on another level. And then just to see that not be able to happen, it just crushed me. I remember, and I don't even think we've talked about this, but there was one Christmas that she was hanging up stockings. It was on a little wooden ladder that we had. And she had her back to me, and she don't even remember it. I remember it clearly. She was putting up mine and her stockings, and she said, I really wanted to hang up a third one this year. And man, I'm telling y'all, that was tough. It was all I could do. I was like melting into a puddle behind her, crying. And she never seen it. She never saw me, but that right there it was tough. It hit me to the core. And I went to work the next day, and I was like, man, y'all, this is tough. And I know a lot of people have had it a lot worse than we have. We're blessed. Like I said, our story is awesome, and we wanted to tell people it, and we really want to tell it because we want people to choose joy when you're in this journey. Like, it's going to be hard and it's going to be tough, but if you turn to the Lord and wait on Him, He will get you through it. Because there was times we did not know. We thought this was the end. The Lord does not want us to have a child, and we just didn't know why we were having to go through this journey. And we have realized now that, God's plan for us is bigger than the pain that we were going through. And it took, 5 years for us to really come to that. And our preacher at church, he did a sermon on Choose Joy. And I don't remember if it was you or me. It just kind of turned into that was going to be our motto. We were going to choose joy no matter how hard it got. And I'm telling you, a lot of days it was a struggle to choose joy. We didn't want to, and it was hard, but we have. And so that's where we're at now. And like I said, that's just my perspective on it. She's got more from the woman and the wanting to be a mom side of thing. But it's just, guys, if you're going through it, I can tell you, support your wife the best you can. And some days it's not going to be enough, but just being there and, knowing there's hope in tomorrow is all you can do.
I feel like I'll never be able to repay Jennifer and what she's doing for us. But I know that that's not why she's doing this. She is doing this because God laid this on her heart, and she's trusting Him and obeying Him and doing exactly what He is telling her to do. And she's definitely an answer to our prayer, and we'll never be able to thank her. But we're excited to see where this journey is going to go, and hopefully we'll have baby Jackson or a couple out of this. We appreciate everybody's support so far. We would appreciate prayers going forward. We're going to try to update everybody and keep everybody informed through this whole cycle of what's going on, so that you can know how to pray specifically for mine and Jennifer's bodies to work correctly, and that hopefully at the end of this we'll have a baby Jackson out of it, and hopefully a couple frozen embryos so that we can have multiple baby Jacksons eventually. But we just wanted to do this video so that we could share our story and share about infertility, because a lot of people aren't aware of exactly what couples have to go through when they go through this.
It's a real closed door process, it seems like. I know that we've had couples reach out to us, and there's some they've talked to us before they've even told their family what they're going through. And that just blew me away, that, you know, we hadn't told our story really like majorly publicly, but a little bit, and that people have contacted us, and we just want to let people know, you know, you don't have to go through this alone. I mean, everybody's story is different, how they want to do things are different, but we just want to let people know, you know, to choose joy and have hope. And, you know, our story's not over yet. I mean, there's still more to it, but we wanted to get this out there and kind of give everybody a little bit of information, because it had been a little while since we've done anything and before we put anything out. So that's why we made this video, and so y'all are all caught up on what the next step is.